I just want to say that it's great to be underway. We've had a pretty intense little 8-day period getting ready for it, but we're just delighted to be underway. I think whilst a lot will be made of the score, and clearly the score was one-sided, I think the exciting thing for us is that we're back playing rugby against the Pacific nations, and for us, it's not an opportunity we get a lot. We know how tough it is on Tonga to get organised, and particularly with quarantining and COVID, and so it's almost but I think at the end of the day, it's great to see the two countries playing again on the rugby park. So, big hand from us to them for the way that they prepared in a really difficult situation. For us, good performance. Clearly there was times that we got put under pressure, and I like the way we fought our way out of that without getting frustrated, which sometimes can happen when scores start to climb. But overall, really pleased with a lot of the skill level and some of the shape that we put out in the park. Questions?
Yeah, 100 nil obviously is a pretty open game. When you look to analyse the counter, can you actually get out of a game that is kind of as open and free flowing as that one?
Oh, you can get a lot out of it because we had some real areas that we wanted to target, and largely, I think I flagged it before the game. We really wanted to drive our skill level early, and sometimes you can start to abandon that when the score goes up a bit and get a bit too loose. Whereas I felt that there were moments that we started to get really flat in our support and lost the advantage of the line breaks we were getting. But after a while, we actually readjusted and we started to convert a lot of the opportunities we got. So that took discipline, and I think that we probably get a bit of a pat on the back for that.
And your sort of message when you're out there as well, when a game is as open and free flowing as the one you just experienced, to I suppose not just try and roll it around and expect a line break every phase?
It was actually really good out there. I thought the leaders that were out there, Coles was really good, making sure the boys keep coming back to where they needed to be. But then we also I personally saw some growth in some of the younger boys. Someone like Dalton was really good. He played really well and got the boys in so we could deliver a quick message if we needed it. But at the same time, the boys knew what we needed to do, and we just wanted to get set, ready to go again. And I thought we got that balance pretty well, as Fozzie said. But when we did lack that skill execution, we put ourselves under pressure, whether that was with or without the ball.
Sam, given the scoreline, and as Ian referred to, maybe some of what Tom had to go through to get here, how do you feel coming off the field after a game like that?
Yeah, it is tough. I know a few of the Tonga boys really well. Played a lot of rugby with Nasi, Manu, from New Zealand secondary schools all the way through. So it's really good to see those guys out there. But at the same time, you'd love for them to have a bit of a longer build-up. But at the same time, we had a pretty compact build-up as well. I think if you had the ideal situation, every team would have a couple of months together and you'd be able to put everything in slowly, but I know for us it was pretty jam-packed, and for them it was even more jam-packed, actually being in quarantine especially.
And what would you like to see happen to, I guess, make things in this situation in the future a bit more equitable, a bit more competitive?
Take away COVID, take away quarantining, and add another month on the calendar for the World Rugby thing. I mean, really, there is no solution to that right now, and I'd be disappointed if that's what we're dwelling on. Like we weren't happy last year when we got no rugby, and this year we've got some rugby, and clearly the itinerary has put Tonga in a compromised position, but they've been keen to play, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. And so, I mean, like I said, I'd like to think that we're not going to focus on the scoreline and say that this was a game that shouldn't have happened, because I think for the Tongan people it was an important game, and it was equally important for us to actually go out there and start what could be a long year. But in today's environment, you take what you can get.
With all due respect, that's the exact same scoreline from the game played 21 years ago between these two teams, and nothing's changed. So, what should happen?
Well, I don't get the question. Well, what do you mean, what should happen? We sure one more point?
trying to say, like, you know, that there's been no progress from that time.
Well, I think I disagree with that, Jamie, because I think if you look at it, Tonga's performances in World Cup years are very different, aren't they? So what you've got is you've got a World Rugby calendar that makes it very hard for Tonga to prepare their number one team in years between that. And so from that sense, I get your question, and I think you're totally right, and nothing has changed in that. But let's this has been a tough year for them to get organised, you know, and I think when you look at COVID, quarantine, it's impacted on a whole lot of things, but let's not disrespect the fact that 23 Tongans represented their country today and gave it everything they got.
And then Quince Bio debuting in the midfield, what do you think of his performance?
Look, I thought the four guys who played their first test should be pretty proud of what they did, you know, and he got smacked early. I think he realised after 10 minutes that maybe it might be better to go for a weak shoulder than T-bone. And but you know, he stayed in the game. I thought Finlay was really energetic off the bench. I thought Ethan, you know, came on and just brought a massive work rate and chucked himself at everything. And George Bauer, you know, again he looked really enthusiastic. So all four of them, you know, will be sitting in that shed pretty proud with what happened.
And just talking about the changes made in the second half, Geordie comes on at second 5, is that always the plan?
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of midfielders down, and so with David and Anton out, Geordie was always going to be the person to cover, and it's just the sub decision we made. But he trained in a few positions during the week.
And Ethan on both inside flank as well, which has not really played too much this year.
Yeah, well, he again, we're pretty pleased. You know, when he did play 7 during the year, we liked what we saw, and so when we named the squad, you know, we were pretty clear that we see him as a 7 option for us, and so we'll just keep experimenting there.
John, it's pretty hard to gauge your type 5 in a contest like that. What do you see from your loose forwards tonight? You know, you think they tick boxes for you?
Yeah, I thought all 3 loosies were excellent. You know, I mean, they had a lot of momentum, so they were able to get in the game with the skills that they've got, and I think we saw that from Aki on the edge of the park. Saw from Luke Jacobson around the middle of the field with his skill set. So yeah, we're pleased that they were able to have an influence on the game around that area, but. You know, there's always little things that they'll want to work on, but that part of it was really good for me.
And probably Will Jordan, I mean, he scored 5 tries, it's pretty special defeating in a game like that. Do you continue to see good signs from him as he sort of, I guess, established himself at this level?
Yeah, well, you know, it's his first test start, so, you know, I wouldn't say established himself at this level from a, you know, that's not the performance it's going to make him. There's more in him. But, you know, what he did show in the tries is just his speed and his ability to get into the right position at the right time. So he's got great instincts there. And again, I thought he was a little bit like Quinn. Like, I thought he started a little bit slower, and he took there's a couple of things that he'll probably look at and want to do a little bit differently. But again, I like the fact he climbed through that and got involved, got his hands on the ball, and that's what we're looking for with our wings. And on the other side, you know, Bridgie has got through 80 minutes after a long period off, and you know, didn't quite look at his sharp self, but he'll be much better for that 80 minutes.
Damien's medallions distribution was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually quite pleased with Damien. I thought he looked calm. He's I think in the last few months his decision making at the back's been really accurate. Like he's you know, gone from being the guy that just did the dazzling runs and getting some wrong to now he's distributing. He's kicking well. He's coming in as giving us that 2-sided attack that we love to have. And so, you know, I thought he should be pretty happy with what he did.
Sam, we talked a lot about the I suppose, gap between yourselves and Tonga. How much do you think the inclusion of Moana Pacifica into Super Rugby next year will help not close that gap straight away, but I suppose, you know, go some way to reducing that gap over time?
I think having another Super Rugby franchise in New Zealand is only going to be a good thing. It might test the depth, but I think that's going to develop people as well. So whether that means you're from the Pacific Islands or born and raised in New Zealand, it's going to make people have to be exposed sometimes maybe a little bit early, but some of them should hopefully step up and make the depth of all the Pacific nations in a better spot.
And you said earlier this week that you came to see Kiriwai put a marker down after a big Super Rugby season. You feel like you did that tonight? Were you pleased with the performance?
Yeah, just like John said, I think there was good. I thought all our Lucy's, worked really hard. He's working hard on his involvements, Akira, to make sure that we get the numbers out of him in terms of the game load. But I thought defensively he looked good. A bit loose off that scrum or that high one, but apart from that he was pretty accurate. And again, I thought we saw his influence with the ball, particularly when he's a little bit wider. And I think if we can get that accuracy with him when he's carrying the ball a little bit closer, then we're starting to get the real gains out of him. But there was a good movement.
Last question, and then we'll wrap up for the Tongans.
And are there a lot of positions open in sort of a first 15 as such at the moment, or have you got a pretty good idea of who would be in the team, and did much change tonight in that regard?
I would say in my time with the All Blacks, there's probably more positions that we're debating than probably for a long, long time. And so, this series is a very important series from us from that perspective. So we've got some big calls to make, but I think we'll worry about those calls after we see these three games. And the great thing is we've got a chance to actually give some people some opportunity to put their best foot forward during the training week and how they prepare. So, she's pretty competitive.